Hello, all. Hope you're doing good. Today, I want to discuss a new topic. A topic that I wanted to talk about is transitional kindergarten or TK. So, what is transitional kindergarten or TK? So, this is falls under the public school offered by your school district. Watching my videos before, as I mentioned, I live in the state of California, and over here we do offer the transitional kindergarten. So think of transitional kindergarten as a bridge between a preschool, especially when your kid is transitioning from preschool into the kindergarten or the proper school. Think of this to be the bridging gap, and it is like a stepping stone to get into the school system. So this is what transitional kindergarten. So it is a step before kindergarten and after a preschool. Okay. The next thing is the eligibility. Now, what is the eligibility to get into transitional kindergarten? Now, remember, transitional kindergarten is an optional step. Not each and every kid would go through the transitional kinder. It depends upon the state in US in which you're living. As I said, I lived in California, and here the rules are different. So the eligibility is that for the academic year, now currently we are in the academic year of 24-25. So for this year, if your kid needs to qualify, and in the particular school district that I live in, your kid needs to have born from September 2nd, 2019 to June 2nd, 2020. So that means the kid is roughly somewhere between the 4 year range to 5 year, the 4 to 5 year range. Earlier it was a narrower range, now they have expanded it. Your school district will also be pretty much the same, around the same border. So definitely go to your district, your school website district, and check what is the exact eligibility. But these are the kids which are eligible for transitional kindergarten. It simply means instead of getting into kindergarten, they would get into the transitional kindergarten. And whereas the regular kids who are born before, on or before September 1st, would just get directly into kindergarten. So this is what transitional kindergarten is all about. As we spoke, is it mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. Only if your kid qualifies, it gets into this. What is the curriculum they follow for transitional kinder? Now, remember, a lot of emphasis is paid in transitional kindergarten for the social emotional well being of the child because they are still very young. Kindergarten is also relaxed. They do take a lot of care for the child. For example, the school that my home school that we are eligible for, they even have a playground, and pretty much the whole kindergarten class is like very protected, and no the older kids don't get into there. But transitional kindergarten is again a step before that. So a lot of attention is given for social emotional well-being. A lot of development of sensory skills, motor skills happens. It is also, think of it as a combination of your academic learning plus your behavioral aspects, what a child of that age group is needed. They emphasize on autonomy, building skills, being independent, learning how to follow a routine, understanding the pattern of school. So it is really a stepping stone, but it is taken at a very easy phase, very friendly manner, so the kids don't get intimidated. Now, also another note here for kids who are following a different language. As you're aware, the English is the primary language in most of the public schools. Now, there are schools offering secondary languages like Spanish and things like that. But for the primary English speaking schools, there are a concept of immersion in schools as well, where different languages are also spoken. For example, Mandarin and Spanish, and the instructions are given. So definitely, if your kid has been in a home environment and was speaking a second language, and you need for the kid to get adapted, especially in a group setting, for it to really thrive in a group setting, do check in your school district if are there any specialized offerings, and those kind of programs you want to take advantage of. But yeah, in a nutshell, you can think that the learning is it's very milder. It is also play based learning. So what does play based learning means? It is not really the as rigorous as when you start with a textbook and things like that. Like for an example, right, if they want to teach the concept of light to the kids, right, they start off with, what do you think, when I on and off a switch, what happens to that? How does the light come on? How does the light get off? How are shadows formed? What happens if you have something and the light is blocked, right, with your hand or some obstacle? What happens? So it is very play based learning, and it's really a very nice way to introduce the concept of education to kids. So this is about the curriculum. Now, coming to the routine and the timings, now in the school district that I stay in, they do have a TK program offering in our school. Not each and every school will offer a TK, but that still means you're eligible. It just means you have to drive a little far. It may not be your home school, but another school in the district is where you will be assigned for. So you may definitely want to factor this in if you're, renting a home or buying a home, just, for the sake of the school, to check how far it is and how your commute distance is going to be. And AM, they generally have AM and PM batches, because what happens is the class doubles up as a kindergarten and a TK. Again, as I said, it depends upon your specific school. So they do have AM and PM offerings. So it's just, the batches, how they split it. So if it is a PM batch, that means you're just going in later in the day, probably at 11 o'clock, and you're getting off at 2. If it's an AM batch, you're just probably going at regular school time, something around 8 o'clock, and out at the 11. Now, the timings, again, it depends. Normally, TK and kindergarten is supposed to be reduced timings when compared to regular school, roughly around 3 to 4 hours. But there are many school districts in California itself which offer longer programs. So it really depends. You need to talk to your school, go to your website and check the timings. But if that happens, that, it is a smaller time span, and let's say that, you are able in a position to pick up your kid after 3 hours, well and good. But let's say that you need some longer daycare, do check for on-site after daycares or after school, where, the kid can just continue staying there, and, they do more play based, till you're back from work and you can pick up the kids. So that is also definitely a factor, in choosing whether you really want your kid to go into the transitional kinder or not. So that is basically the routine part. Now, what are the alternatives? Let's say that your kid is born between this time frame, that is after September 2nd, and for the qualifying year they do not get into kindergarten. Now, transitional kinder is the only option for you to enter into the public school system. Now, what really are the alternatives? Of course, the alternatives are private school. Now, there are many reasons why people pick private schools. The only downfall, or the only limitation of a private school is that you will need to pay for it. It's not free. But in private schools, this cutoff is more relaxed. Generally, the cutoff is somewhere around December, so your kid would still qualify for a full day kindergarten program. So this is what happened in the case of my son, because I was really looking for a full day program. It was not possible for me to send my child to transitional kinder, and I was not too very happy with all the after school options. So that is why I decided, to put the money in a private school, so that, he could spend the whole day. And again, it's not a problem, but I was very uncomfortable with the, fact the kid has to shuffle between classroom to classroom. So I was, again, it's maybe just my personal choice. Your kid may thrive better in that environment, but that was, one of my reasons why I picked a private school. Now, in private schools, as I said, the cutoff is more relaxed as in December, so your kid directly qualifies into kindergarten. And once kindergarten is done, what a lot of people tend doing or end up doing, of course, if you're going to continue with a private school for different reasons, it's a totally different other topic altogether. Please check my other video where I talk about public versus private school. But let us say that you need to go back into the public school for whatsoever reason. The money may be one consideration. At that point of time, you are or your kid is eligible for first grade. They don't really look at the cutoff. They do definitely ask you for a certificate or proof that your child has completed the kindergarten program successfully. So you should be in a position to provide certificates from, a real bona fide school that you have completed the kindergarten, or you must probably have report cards to, do eligibility, to check the eligibility. Certain districts I know also conduct a test to see, how ready your kid is, because again, public school is very different compared to private school. So they also have a test to see if your kid qualifies. But the point being is that you do at any point of time qualifying to get back into the public school system, and you can definitely go into first grade directly at this point of time. Okay, now some personal opinions or pros or cons of this method. First of all, you would only be thinking about all this if your kid falls within that, time range. Kid was born between that time range. That is when you will have. Now there are different people look at it as different ways. A set of parents look at it like, I don't want my kid to spend an extra year. I feel they are ready, they are more than ready. I mean, I feel the kid is socially developed or emotionally developed or very eager to get into the regular kindergarten, on kindergarten onwards program. So a lot of people feel that, I don't want to waste this time, so I'll probably send my kid to a private school and then start from the first grade. That is one way of thinking of it. But on the other side, there are a lot of people that, your kid is really born at the later months of the year, right? So probably if you compare it with a January born kid or a February born kid, you are really the youngest kid in the class. So your kid may actually need time for that social development. So actually it kind of works out very well for kids, for parents who really want to give their kids that extra time. Of course, affordability is an issue. If you are in a position you cannot afford a private school, nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly and absolutely okay to get into the transitional kindergarten system. Your kid is only going to benefit because when your kid goes to kinder, the average age of your kid would be somewhere around 6 years. That means the kid is really the oldest kid in the class, which means that your kid will probably be an edge above the other kids. So that there are different dimensions of or ways of looking at this. It's nothing right or a wrong thing over here. You really need to sit down and you need to check what works. First of all, what works best for your family. Is cost a factor? How good you think is, or how, rather than saying good, how ready is your kid for a school system? If you think your kid needs more time, definitely they will benefit a lot from transitional kinder. Or if you think, no, my kid is very advanced, my kid would get bored actually, which may cause them to lose interest, then probably, right, transitional kinder may not be good for them, and they have to go for the alternatives of private school. So I hope I've conveyed all the points. And again, adding a personal note here, as I said, my son was eligible for transitional kinder, but I choose a private school. Again, my reasons were not about my kid wasting a year. In grand scheme of things, I don't think really a year matters in your life. It really doesn't matter in the bigger picture of life. A year is not going to make a difference. For me, it was the logistics of my kids shuffling classes, me having to arrange an after school program, things like that. I was more worried of those logistics. And I really, considering that in my school district the offering is just for 3 hours, I really felt that my kid would not really benefit a lot by going one place for 3 hours and then shuttling him the rest of the day. And having said, after my days of work only I'm going to pick him, I don't have the option to pick him up early. So I really wanted him to be in one place and one learn one thing. So that is, again, that's what worked best for me, for us as a family. So this is just I'm sharing some personal experience. So definitely give this a thought, attend the open house, just get the feel of you want to tour both private schools at kindergarten level and the transitional kinder. Yeah, just feel free to ask all the question. Look up your district website, generally the org website or your district websites. Also feel free to talk to the teachers. Some schools allow you to even talk to the teachers, communicate, and they always have a presentation at the start of the school season. So I hope you will be able to make a good decision for your child in this open enrollment season going on now. And I hope this video helps you. Thank you and all the best.